If you ask people for the reason that most marriages fall apart, or relationships in general fall apart, they might cite a bunch of different things. Difference in parenting styles, money stresses, different values, etc. But I actually think that a large portion of relationship breakdowns are really due to just one problem, and it's communication. I think that communication is far more complex than we realize. There's so much going on that can interfere with good communication. So let's use an analogy of throwing a ball and catching it. When I'm communicating to you, like I am right now, what's really going on? Well, I have some idea, some string of thoughts in my head that I want you to also have. I want you to follow my train of thought, which means there are ideas that I'm trying to get across to you. I'm trying to throw the ball and have you catch it. And the way I'm doing that is by using my body and some technology. You're watching this on a screen. So I'm using my body to gesture with my hands, and you're interpreting that. I'm also using my wrapping my tongue around in a way that produces sounds, vibrations in the air. Those are reproduced through technology and they come out of your speakers, vibrate the air in your room, get your eardrums to vibrate, which sends electrical impulses to your brain, which is interpreted as sound. And then those sounds, you've got particular associations with. Different words mean certain things to you based on your experiences with those words and every other time you've heard them used. And you take all of that together and try to grasp the idea behind the words. It's not even the words themselves, it's the idea behind the words that I'm trying to communicate. That's really what you're trying to latch onto. So there's a sort of encoding process that I go through, and then I lob the ball, and then a decoding process that you go through as you try to catch it, and there's just so much that can get in the way of that whole process going smoothly. There's all sorts of interference. You could mishear me, or you could just not hear me. My wife knows when this has happened because there's a kind of blank nod that I give her when I didn't hear every word in her sentence. So I might not quite hear what you're saying. I could misinterpret the tone of your voice, maybe the pitch and intonation of it. I could misunderstand where a comma is in a sentence, and that causes me to totally misunderstand the question. Or, like we said before, my own projections and insecurities can color the way I perceive certain questions and comments, so that even if I understand the words you're saying, the intent behind them is completely misunderstood. So that's all going on, and then to make things more difficult, people will play games with communication. I mean, you might not be entirely forthright with me. You might not be completely honest. You might not be saying exactly what you think. And so all of that goes into the problem of communication. And I think that a lot of drama, a lot of stress and breakdown in relationships could be avoided if we learn to better understand each other. And that means becoming better communicators ourselves, not only better listeners, but better communicators ourselves. So here's a classic example that's worth thinking about. If you find yourself becoming resentful or frustrated, it's probably because there's something that you need to say that you're not saying. You're not really communicating what your need is. You haven't actually told the other person what you need, and you're hoping that they'll interpret it or read your mind or anticipate it. And what you perceive as them trying to slight you might actually just be them not understanding or knowing that you have this need at all. When it comes to communication in conflict, I think people generally fall in one of two camps. Some people have a very short fuse and they fly off the handle. And on the other end of the spectrum, you've got folks who are stuffers, where anytime they're feeling a negative emotion or a conflict emerging, they just stuff down their frustrations. They stuff down their complaints inside because they don't want to rock the boat. So they try to swallow their feelings or shut them behind a door that they can't open, and they distract themselves. Now the thing about being a stuffer is that eventually it's gonna leak out in other ways, maybe subtle ways, maybe even unconscious ways. You might sneak venom into your words or your tone, or find other passive-aggressive ways to hurt the other person. Or you'll stuff stuff down for so long that eventually you reach a tipping point and you explode. I used to be a stuffer, and it caused me to explode a couple of times, and it was embarrassing. And if you're in a similar boat and you find yourself to be a stuffer, then as a continuation of the truth challenge, a commitment to living life reconciled to the truth, I want you to make an attempt to communicate your needs more clearly. You don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to be demanding about it. But it's actually not loving, it's not agape to withhold yourself from the other person. And that's what you're doing when you're stuffing things down. Now, that's not to say you need to make a big deal out of every offense. Letting things go is an important skill if you're actually able to let them go. But if it's bigger stuff that you're just attempting to sweep under the rug because dealing with it would be unpleasant, it's going to cause issues in the long run. This is where I always say it's better to explain what you're feeling, communicate it, than it is to act on what you're feeling. So if you're feeling angry, you don't have to pretend that you're not angry, but just don't allow yourself to become possessed by anger. Don't just be shouting and screaming and hitting. That's not helpful for anybody. You don't have to deny your anger, but you also don't have to give it full control either. So I think one way you can do that is be honest about it. Just say, I'm really angry right now. I'm really angry with you. Can you say that to someone? I'm really angry with you. It's one thing to shout it. It's one thing to scream it. And that's not what we're aiming for. Can you just say it? Can you be stoic enough to do that? I'm incredibly frustrated. I'm very disappointed. I'm embarrassed. Just name it, whatever it is. That's the truth. And then you can deal with it from there. In a coming lesson, I'm going to talk about conflict specifically, some strategies and tips on walking through conflict in the best possible way. But for now, for today, when it comes to your communication, I want you to think about your relationships and what might need to change, what might need to improve. Do you need to communicate more often? Some of this might just be practical and logistical. Like, I don't know, if you and your spouse are quibbling over expectations and events and what's on the schedule, like maybe you need a calendar to put together, or you need a weekly check-in so that you aren't being surprised by double booking. Or you might need to communicate more directly, more honestly, more forthrightly. Maybe you have been guarding your words, beating around the bush, leaving some things under the rug, and that's coming out in other ways, or it's causing bumps elsewhere in the rug. What needs to happen really is for you to communicate the situation plainly and clearly so that it can be dealt with. Or do you need to communicate more kindly? Remember, we want to balance this, telling the truth, and that means even saying hard things sometimes, but always doing it in love, with the other person's best interests in mind, and never trying to hurt the other person. This is, I think, an important distinction to make, that you're not responsible for how somebody else reacts to what you say to them. You're responsible for what you say and how you say it. You know as well as I do that you can choose to slip venom in. You can choose to try to hurt them. The way that you phrase things, the tone that you use, or you can just commit to not doing that, not playing those games, because it's just not helpful in the long run. Instead, the goal should be clear, honest communication, even if that upsets the other person, but never with an intent to upset the other person. Maybe that's something you need to grow in. So where are you on this spectrum? Some of you watching this, you'll tend to be too nice and to not say hard things and to sweep things under the rug. And others of you, you'll tend to be too harsh. And maybe you do attempt to slip venom into some of your phrases and you try to cut the other person with your words. And for you, you need to communicate more kindly. So how does your communication need to improve? What small step could you take today to improve it? Is there something you've left unsaid that needs to be said? Or do you need to speak more kindly to the people around you? Make a conscious effort as you go through your day today, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 28.